Hello, I'm with Sergeant Joshua Crabb. He's the McWill Fellow NCO Fellow, and we're here at Quantico in Virginia. And Joshua, just want to ask you, first of all, can you explain a little bit about the warfare command that you've been working at, the Warfare Laboratory, and what they do?
Absolutely. So I work with the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab. I run a program called the McWill NCO Fellows. And what the warfighting lab that I work for does is basically we go out, we look at technologies. We're looking near term to far term future. We're looking at technologies that either exist or concepts that exist. And sometimes we come up with those concepts, and we look at ways to apply those concepts to the battlefield. And we're looking from tomorrow through many years from now. What my program specifically does inside of McWill, I don't want to speak for anybody else. What my program specifically does is I bring in non-commissioned officers, and I give them the ability to have their voice heard. So when programs are created, technology is created, there's not always the person who's actually going to use it in the room when they're designing these things and laying out stuff. So what we do is we bring people who have good ideas, who can articulate themselves, and who can tell a person why their product sucks, and in a very nice way, or sometimes not so nice, and how it can suck a little bit less. So we bring them up, and they'll go talk to engineers. They'll go talk to policymakers. Sometimes they talk to generals. They talk to colonels a lot. We've talked to Rear Admiral Holland up at ONR, and we just give our insight. We're not the end all be all. We don't have the only decision in the room, but it's always good. And what we found is to have the person who's actually utilizing your products in the room to help you make a better product in the end run.
And so, what's the importance of having these enlisted soldiers, enlisted Marines in there with you? I mean, obviously they're the ones that are using it. So, what kind of feedback can they give? Is that tactical, operational experience, I assume, right?
Yes. So we call them SMEs, subject matter experts. So I want a guy who he has done it on the ground. He's done it a couple times, and he can tell you the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it. He understands the doctrinal application of whatever it is you're trying to do, but he also understands how you're going to do it on the ground. Now, I don't want him to tell you how to do it the wrong way, because everybody knows there's a way to do things. We're all taught in school, how to do multiplication, and there's a way that you do it in your head. But what that guy is going to bring to you, or girl, we're agnostic, is he's going to bring you the ground level information, and he's going to bring that back up. So, the analogy I like to use is the RDT&E world has been a closed loop for a very long time. There's been a lot of 10-pound brain guys in the room with decision makers that have a lot of money, and they come up with great ideas. The problem is those great ideas don't always mesh. So you'll give me a flak that's fantastic. You'll give me a pack that's fantastic, but you won't put the pack on with the flak on at the same time. So we find a lot of engineers, they don't understand what it is I wear when I do my job. They don't understand the equipment that I use and the environment that I apply that equipment in. So we bring a guy in who has just done it. Maybe he was just stepped off the bird yesterday, and now he's here in your office, and we're talking about the problems that he has and the problem that you're trying to solve and find a better way to do it. We're not trying to shut everybody down. We're just trying to find a better way to solve people's problems.
So how do you break that culture? Because you usually assume that an enlisted soldier is not going to be too excited about telling off a colonel, right? So how do you get them to maybe kind of loosen up a little bit and actually tell them what's on their mind?
So there's a couple different ways we do it. A lot of the time, that's one of my taskers is basically to push them to, hey, that guy's just a guy. He may have a bird on his collar, he may have a star on his collar, but he's still just a guy. He puts his socks on, he puts his pants on the same way you do every morning. You need to go up and you need to have a little bit of cojones, and you need to say, look, this is what is wrong with the Marine Corps, because if you don't fix it, it may not be fixed in the near future. But really what's going to happen is 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that 5-year-old, that 10-year-old who's in grade school, and he's going to go fight America's next war, he's not going to have the right gear. Think back a long time ago, National Guard guys welding steel plates to their Humvees because we didn't have the right gear for them. We don't want that to happen again. We want to find our problems before they happen and solve them, and give the guy who's, an 8-year-old in 3rd grade, he's got the solution and it's already on its way. Yeah, it's not going to be here tomorrow, but it's going to be here by the time he's a Lance Corporal.
So tell me a little bit more about what interested you in being a fellow. I understand that the fellows kind of come in from areas that aren't usually their specified MOS or field, right?
Yes. So the way that I got into the program, my predecessor, he was setting up a project. Basically, they were looking at fighting in a dense urban. Okay, and we did a war game where you have captains and lieutenants from TBS and EWS, and they're fighting squads, and they're fighting them through a city. And what he looked at was, he said, hey, captains aren't squad leaders. Officers don't lead squads. Officers lead large formations of troops. We need to get guys that lead small units on the battlefield in the room, and they need to have this discussion. Not that the captains have the wrong decision, they have the wrong information. It's just they're not looking at it from the same perspective. So I was one of those the group of NCOs that came in, and I gave my experience through what I've done in my life, in my career, and I really found that the program, people listened to us. We had retired lieutenant colonels, we had retired colonels, we have active duty lieutenant colonels. I had stars talking to me and saying, hey, we appreciate your perspective, and it's nice to hear from the enlisted side, because a lot of us, we have a lot of gripes, moans, and complaints. Some of them are valid, some of them aren't. But it's very nice to know that the valid ones are actually heard, and people say, hey, that's a great idea, and I'm glad you said something about it, because I had no idea it was an issue.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of the technologies that go through and maybe some of the changes that have been made because of the program?
Okay, so I can speak specifically. I like telling the story.
Sure.
So a part of that exercise, or that event, was there was an exercise held in Camp Pendleton of March this year. What my predecessor asked me to do was, he said, hey, you've been out there with the technology. We looked at 300 different technologies over a week. We gave them to Lance Corporals, PSC, squad leaders, said, go break this stuff and tell them why it sucks. One of the things that I identified was a set of night vision goggles that exist. They are an actual product. You can buy them off the shelf. Well, the government can buy them off the shelf. And there are people in the government, the DoD, that use them. But the Marine Corps does not. We're using PVS-14s, which are great. They're better than looking at nighttime with the naked eye, but they're very old technology. And I identified this, and I stood in front of a group of MEF commanders. I stood in front of a group of division commanders, and I said, look, we don't own the night. We don't rent the night. We just occupy the space in the night. This piece of equipment, which is a thing, it's already there. It's got a price. It's got a program of record. It's got a requirement written for it. It's very easy. All you have to do is take your dollars from here and put your dollars over there. That's kind of one of the things that I personally was able to affect. That's a project that's actually moved forward, and they're going to buy some of those. Other things that we do, we've gone out to Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane in Crane, Indiana, and we've taken fellows with us out there, and they've worked with engineers and said, hey, what are your problems? So one of the problems we had was assaultmen in the Marine Corps are going away. The Marine Corps has determined that, our resident infantry explosive and anti-tank experts are going to go away. That's a decision that's been made, so we're going to live with the consequences. One of those consequences is now I don't have the organic capability to breach doors because my breachers are now gone. I'm going to get engineer squads in, starting in within the next period of time, whenever that happens. But I don't have at the infantry capable, guys that know how to clear a room. They don't know how to breach doors because it's not something they're taught. So what can we do about this? Well, we can take the concepts from 0351's assaultmen, and we can apply that to a product that's going to make it simpler. So all I have to do is give you basically a Lego. You put explosives in that Lego, you tape it up, you put it on the door, you stand back as far as it says to stand back, and you blow it up. So it's a very simple concept. It allows us to take very complex concepts and put them at a very simple level. That's another thing we're pushing forward.
So how did you end up getting in this? I mean, there's lots of enlisted Marines out there. How did you find this program and decide this is for me?
So personally, I got into this program. I knew the guy that ran the program. So a lot of our connections are personal, one-to-one. I know you. You know this guy. Hey, do you know Tim and Todd and Jesse? But another thing that we do is we go out to commands. We do road shows. So in the very near future, we're going to go out to another road show. We were just in Camp Pendleton a couple weeks ago. We talked to a regimental commander all the way down to, I talked to a fire team leader. So we talked to that whole group. Myself personally, I got into it through one of those road shows, and like I said, the program, the experiment last year, the NCO who at the time, he came out and said, hey, we need Marines who have got this kind of experience, and they've done this kind of thing, and they want to be able to change the Marine Corps. And I said, hey, that's a really great idea. I'd really like to participate in that project. So we've kind of grown that into now we're doing more formalized road shows where we could talk to people. Very soon we're going to go talk in Camp Lejeune. We're going to go talk to anybody that'll listen to us. We're going to set up a formal brief, and we'll talk to everybody, and we'll sell the program to them.
Do you have any ideas of how to maybe build this out and make it a little easier for enlisted Marines and other lower rank people to talk to the big guys upstairs?
Yes. So one of the things we're working on is, and this will be familiar to all Marines out there, is we're going to be working on a MAR admin. Now that sounds big and scary and administrative, but what it's really going to allow us to do is to formalize this process. We can look at people. I hate the word innovative because it's a buzzword, right? We're really looking for guys that can think. It's hard to say without using buzzword, maybe, right? Yeah. So I want somebody that's going to look at a problem and then maybe not left, right, layout right into it, right? He's going to look at a problem. He's going to come up with a solution all on his own. But I'm going to formalize that process so that I can screen you a little bit beforehand because we don't just want every Joe off the street. Because not that they don't have great ideas, but we want to get the guys that are going to sell the ideas the best. So we're going to formalize that process. We're going to push it out to you. It's going to be very similar to your application for enlisted officer programs. You're going to push this package up, and your command can't stop you. We want to make sure that the commands can't say, no, I don't want you to go to this because you're my best guy. You're my best squad leader because it's an institutional level effect, and we have to make sure people realize that it's institutional level effects that people are having out here.
Great. Sergeant Crabb, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.